From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. This music comes from a new album several thousand years in the making. The percussionists performing this piece are playing unusual stones called lithophones. These are polished, resonant rocks shaped like baguettes. Archaeologists say that indigenous people used the stones somewhere between 2,000 and 6,000 years ago, near what is now Great Sand Dunes National Park. Now they're being used to make new music. Denver composer Nathan Hall wrote a series of pieces to be performed on them and recorded them with a Colorado group called Perc-Ons, as in short for percussion ensemble. The album, called Gentle Worship, is out now. Nathan joined me to talk about his unusual collaboration with Marilyn Martorano, the Colorado archaeologist who studied the lithophones. Nathan said that for this music, the creative process started with simply imagining how the stones might have been used a few thousand years ago.
If I were to guess, I would say because the tones ring out so brightly, they could be heard over a long distance. So if I were to guess, you could play them and then have some kind of communication system or like a musical call and response over several miles, things like that, or arrange them as a xylophone for some kind of live performance, and then your whole community can hear them.
Do we know if the stones had some kind of spiritual significance?
We can assume that there was some kind of importance to them for the stones to last this long through history. But I think there's also a lot of ways that objects get put spiritual significance onto when maybe they were actually a little bit more utilitarian, or maybe they were just for fun. I did also contact the Denver Indian Council and all of the tribes of Colorado and just inquired whether these stones had religious or cultural significance. I didn't want to use them if I was going to be insensitive or if they had a kind of sacred use that was not allowed for a public setting. But nobody knew what they were. Most of the people just said, actually go for it. It would be really nice to see these objects explored more. Maybe we'll find out more through that.
You were faced with a unique opportunity to create music with these prehistoric instruments. How did you get comfortable writing for something that you've never played or really even heard before, as opposed to, say a piano or a violin?
Marilyn Martorano, the archaeologist, and I had a little library science day where she brought the stones and we laid them out in a little room to ourselves. So I got a chance to play them hands-on.
Okay.
And from there, I actually wrote down about what notes come out from each stone so I could kind of lay them out on the musical staff like a composer might for another instrument. And then I went back home and kind of brainstormed about, okay, of these notes and of these sounds, what kinds of things could I compose?
These pieces you wrote for Gentle Worship tell a story about bringing ancient objects and ideas from the past into the present. One way you did that is by using modern objects like a trash bag alongside the lithophones in one piece. Talk about how you mixed old and new in this music.
Trying to take ancient objects, are they sacred? Are they spiritual in some way? And bring them into the present. We don't know a lot about what people would have used then or how they would have viewed these stones as significant. But they do have a kind of special, mystical, otherworldly quality to them. And I wanted to heighten that in the music. At the same time, I wanted to say, well, if we're bringing that into the present, what would be the things that outlive us? So I think of metal and carved stone, and I think a lot about plastic. that will be the thing that future centuries see of our humanity. So if I could make music about that, then I feel like I've encompassed a lot of archaeological time, so to speak.
The album is a collaboration with a percussion trio from Colorado called Perk-Ons. And you all recorded this album in a venue in Rangeley in northwest Colorado called The Tank. It is an old water tank that has reverb like something that you might hear in a cathedral. You can really hear that on the album. What made you want to record this music there?
There was something about the tank in general. Whenever I hear recordings of music made in that space, it has the most incredible long reverb or echo to it. And there was something that said, if I'm going to make music about these stones that ring out, this kind of long echo or reverb would kind of reflect the long history of time that they've been in the world. So it made the music a little bit more timeless, as in outside of time. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to like keep these stones alive, so to speak.
Well, Nathan, having written music for these ancient stones, what do you think they can tell us about early humans, our ancestors?
I am not an archaeologist, but if I had a personal view on things, it would say that music has always been around our humanity. And despite not knowing if it were sacred or spiritual or not, I feel like people have always had a creative bone in them, so to speak. We found ancient flutes from thousands of years ago. We found, cave art from tens of thousands of years ago.
Sure.
So I feel like there's always been a sense of trying to understand our world through other senses and through that creative spark.
It's so different to think about that because I feel like when I think about ancient humans, it was all about survival. There would be no room for art.
Yes, exactly. I think we have maybe a misconception that life was just so brutal that all your day was spent hunting and feeding and gathering and surviving the elements. But I think there was actually a lot of downtime in those days. And especially at nighttime, if people were keeping watch or surrounded by a fire or something, there might have been quiet moments of reflection and time to think and create.
That's an excerpt from the composition Gentle Worship by Colorado composer Nathan Hall. The music was written for ancient resonant stones called lithophones, along with more modern instruments like woodblocks, timpani, and disassembled organ pipes. We'll put a link to hear the album, which dropped earlier this month, in our show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.